Hey everybody, Slippery Slope here, and this is the first video in the SQL series. And congratulations for clicking on this, because if you're going to get a job, say as a programmer or as a database analyst or administrator or anything like that, this stuff is going to be useful. And quite honestly, if you work for a company that likes to have reports, a lot of them are going to use SQL. So you're going to love it. Let's get going. Let's go over what databases are. Just really simply in layman's terms, databases present data as tables. There you go. We're going to spend most of our time talking about tables rather than databases, because what databases are is they present data in tables. Tables are made up of columns and rows, and that probably isn't a new concept to you. For example, if you've used Microsoft Excel before, you know all about that. I actually made a really simple little table that I actually put together in Microsoft Word, so we're going to look at that in a few seconds. But uh, essentially, you can think of columns as types, or say categories if you prefer, such as age, for example, or color of your hair, or favorite sport, or something like that. And rows are separate entries. The best way I can explain that is to move on to the next part of this video. And right here, you'll see a listing of 4 veteran quarterbacks. And yeah, according to Microsoft Word, Breeze is a spelling error. But yeah, I know Brett Favre is retired for good now, we think, but I included him anyway. So we have Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Brett Favre, and Drew Brees. Well, the columns are quarterback, team, and Pro Bowls, being how many All-Star games, if you prefer, they were elected to by their peers, coaches, fans. So quarterback would be one column. In that column, you had Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Brett Favre, Drew Brees. Team would be another column: Colts, Patriots, Packers, Saints. Obviously, Brett Favre played with a few other teams besides the Packers, and Peyton Manning's now a Bronco at the time I made this video. If you wanted to, you could do some pretty interesting things with SQL. If you wanted to, say, list these guys as being on more than one team, the ones who were, that is, Brady's always been a Patriot, and there'd be some unique ways to get that information in SQL, but I don't want to confuse you all right now. Essentially, quarterback is a column, team is a column, and Pro Bowls is a column. And again, going back to this idea that a row is a unique entry, think of it this way: Peyton Manning, Colts, 11. That would be a row. It'd be Peyton Manning and the information you have about Peyton Manning. Colts, 11, played for the Colts, and has been to 11 Pro Bowls. Before I move on to the next and final slide, I do want to say that you're going to see primary keys a lot, and this is something you're really going to want to know. A primary key is what makes a row unique. And there would be an actual column that I would probably name ID, and I would have a 1 next to Peyton, just because personally I think he's the best quarterback of the last many years. But he would be number 1, Brady would be number 2, Favre would be 3, Brees would be 4. Not necessarily ranking them in terms of quality, but just in terms of saying Peyton Manning is the first name on this list, Brady would be 2, Favre would be 3, and Brees would be 4. And what these primary keys would do is they would give a unique value to each particular entry. And don't worry if you haven't picked up on that yet, because we'll be talking about that in future videos. So don't stress it, but just know we will be talking about primary keys going into the future. Now, one last thing is, what the heck is SQL? Because I talked about databases and tables, columns, rows, but I haven't really said what SQL is. SQL is structured query language, which is actually kind of iffy, because in order for SQL to be a true language, you're going to want to be using something called PL/SQL. That's the sort of thing that will come up in an interview. They'll ask you what PL/SQL is all about, but essentially it's languagey enough. SQL is used to retrieve data in specific ways. So if I wanted my data to be retrieved in a specific manner, say I wanted to select a row from a particular table and only retrieve values that are within a specific range, I could do that with SQL. That's a real simple way of explaining it. But the best way to really learn is to watch the videos I'm about to make, and it'll make that a lot easier to understand. There are a lot of other ways of using SQL. There's MySQL, there's SQL Plus, there's ISQL Plus if you want to use your browser. I mean, you could do that with MySQL too. We're probably going to be using MySQL. So just remember, SQL is structured query language. We use it to retrieve data, and we get that data conceptually through tables, which are composed of columns and rows. So that's the gist of it. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. Slippery Slope signing out. Peace.